Good morning, friends. Today in this lecture session, we'll have a little bit of discussion regarding the role of thermodynamics in biochemical reactions. So, in brief, we'll be discussing about principles of uh, the principles behind energy principles behind biochemical reactions. So let's go ahead. So we'll learn all these things by asking few questions. The first question that we are going to ask is what are living beings? So here living beings show some characteristics like eat, they grow, they move, they protect themselves, and then they reproduce. Or in short, they are responsive to the outside challenges. Here all these things are nothing but work. Okay, so to eat, to grow, to move, to protect, or to reproduce, or to respond, the living beings have to do some work. So whenever you are working, you consume energy. Okay, so what living beings are doing here is they have to consume energy, they capture energy from external sources, and they have to use it for doing all these works. So let's see how actually the work is the energy component is coming over here. So life obeys thermodynamics. Okay, so in general, in nature, in the outside world, you can see actually energy transfer happening naturally. So we all knew that sun is actually the ultimate resource for energy. So sun rays provide energy to plants uh, to make use of carbon dioxide and water, and they'll do photosynthesis, and then they synthesize food material like starch. Okay, and then the other organisms, they make use of this food, and then they consume it to gain energy. So in this process there will be heat loss will be there, and also they give out carbon dioxide along with so many other waste materials, carbon dioxide. So this carbon dioxide will again go back to plants, and then they will be utilized for photosynthesis. Okay, so in this way plants will convert carbon dioxide to carbohydrates, as well as they provide us oxygen. Okay, so this is the way how no energy that is captured by plants, that is squeezed into carbohydrates, is again harvested by our system. Okay, so here in this way energy is that is captured from sun is what we are ultimately enjoying. So this is the way how through chemicals energy is supplied from one system to another system. So here we can use the term bioenergetics, like because biological systems and energy component in it. So here again we have to ask a few questions again. So how living beings gain energy, store energy, how living beings can convert energy, how living beings are able to regulate energy. So these are the questions that we need to ask ourselves, and then through these questions we'll try to learn. So how living beings gain energy means, let's say when you are in continuous interaction with the environment, so you are always in touch with the environment, so energy exchange has to happen continuously. So in this way, in this process, how you are able to gain energy through air, through heat or through food, like this. And then how living beings are able to store energy is another big question, because when you are asleep, okay, all your body parts are working. So let's say you had your dinner at 8 o'clock, and you have wanted to have your breakfast at 8 o'clock in the morning, then almost 12 hours fasting is there. So for the entire 12 hours, how you are gaining energy, how you are running your system. So storing of energy in what, how many forms you can store energy, and then convert energy. Because you are taking energy in various forms, and your body has a mechanism, it is working on certain principles, it is able to convert different forms of energy that you are capturing, like in, it may be carbohydrates, it may be oil, it may be protein, it may be simple gas. All these things are getting converted to a uniform no energy, so that is distributed throughout your body. And then how you are able to regulate energy, okay. So we have a capacity, limited capacity to capture energy, to distribute energy, as well as to store energy. The reason is, let's say when you have a cell phone battery, when you charge it to optimal levels by using an appropriate means of charging, then it will work productively. Let's say you use some mechanism to pump in so much of energy into a cell phone battery, what will happen? It may explode, okay. So in that way, so based on what kind of principles are there which are controlling energy exchange in our system. So these are the concepts that we need to understand, that we need to get clarity, okay, for better understanding of biochemistry or biochemical reactions. Let's see what not normally happens in our body as far as gaining energy from food is concerned. So we are taking food, that will be digested, the digested food is absorbed, and then the absorbed food material is metabolized, waste material is eliminated. Okay, so here if you closely observe, we eat food through oral cavity, let's say, will go to stomach where digestion is happening. Digestion is work, okay. So many enzymes will be there, other biochemical parameters will be there, and then their chemical bond breaking, chemical bond making, all these things will happen over there. So it is a lot of work is there, okay. Once digested, absorption is happening. Absorption means the food material, whatever useful thing that is there in the food material is going to be absorbed. It will move across a cell membrane, okay, several cell membranes sometimes, means physically some material is being transported across a membrane. It is again a work. And metabolized, metabolism means, so we are trying to capture the energy that is over there invisibly in all these organic compounds by using some kind of a biochemical reaction. So all these are works. So here one very important thing is the direction and process of energy. Direction of process and energy. Like when you take food, it is next step is digestion, and the next step is the absorption, the next step is metabolism. How actually this direction of processes are dictated, and is there anything related to energy behind it? And then extraction of energy, how actually extraction of energy is happening. So why can't we just recharge ourselves with just food material? So why all these biochemical reactions are needed, and why capture of energy is happening in some kind of a slow process, or is there any rule behind it which helps us understand the method of extraction that our body is using, especially for energy? and energy distribution, how that captured energy is distributed throughout your body, because every cell in your body needs energy. Okay, so how efficient, how actually we are able to distribute energy throughout our body. And then cooperative chemistry. This is a very important concept to be understood, because whenever we go through any biochemical reactions, let's say, everything seems like auto operated. Like when you have a chemical, it will be metabolized in a sequential manner. Let's say in future lectures, you will come to know about certain metabolic reactions, like metabolism of carbohydrate. So there you will have glycolysis cycle will be there. In glycolysis, almost 10 steps will be there. So glucose gets converted to glucose 6 phosphate, glucose 6 phosphate to fructose 6 phosphate. It seems like the chemicals are talking to each other. So glucose first go to glucokinase, so that it converts, it recognizes glucose and then converts it to glucose 6 phosphate, and no other chemical. So how this cooperative chemistry is working? So is there any principles related to energy behind this one? So that also we'll have to see. So here the basic principles which actually dictates or which can answer all our questions are laws of thermodynamics. Okay, heat related principles. But actually thermodynamics means, maybe you might have heard of thermodynamics in your +2 level. The same principles we can apply over here. Thermodynamics actually the basic the general principles which explains the way how energy dictates various processes in every aspect of life, in nature. So let's see, in case of laws of thermodynamics, for 3 laws are there +1, 4 laws are there. The first law of thermodynamics states that energy can neither be created nor destroyed, but it can be transformed from one form to another form. Okay, and then it can be converted from one form to another with the interaction of heat, work and internal energy. Means, while energy that is there in one form can be converted to another form via heat, supplying heat, or by working, or by altering internal energy of the system. Okay, so this is it. And here to translate all these things into a mathematical formula, delta U is equal to delta Q plus delta W. Delta U is internal energy component. So this one is internal energy. Delta U is heat, and delta W is work. Delta Q is heat supplied to the system by the surroundings. Delta W is equal to delta Q is heat supplied to the system by the surroundings. Delta W is work done by the system on the surroundings. Delta U is the actual change in internal energy of the system. In normal open systems containing gas, work is done by change in volume. If work is done by change in volume, PV, E is equal to PV. So P into delta V, I can replace delta W. But if you see for biological systems, delta U is equal to delta Q. Why? Because biological systems are closed systems where all these biochemical reactions or thermodynamic exchanges are happening in a system where change in volume is almost negligible. Okay, because within a cell, if a biochemical reaction is happening, you will not find any change in volume, appreciable change in volume. So that's why heat supplied to the system is used up entirely by the system in doing work on the environment. Okay, so there will because throughout your body, if you see, What are the organs where so much of volume change will happen? In lungs or in heart, because the heart works. While working, it will contract as well as relax. In lungs also, it is the same kind of situation. But in actually the throughout your body, in every cell, if you go inside the cell, the system is closed. So that's the reason why for biological systems, heat supply to the system is used up entirely by the system in doing work. Here you need to see a few words are there, like adiabatic process is where there is no heat exchange happening. Isothermal processes are those processes where constant temperature, there is no change in temperature. Isobaric means constant pressure. Isochoric means constant volume. Because you will hear about all these, you will come across with all these words in our lecture and then coming lectures also. So just to make you familiar with these words, I am just mentioning here. The second law of thermodynamics states that heat flows spontaneously from a hot object to a cold object. When two systems are there with varying energy, when they are coming in contact with each other, energy flow from high energy situation to high energy object to low energy object instantaneously. Okay, let's say hot and cold objects are there, and then heat transfer will happen between hot object and cold object when they are connected to each other. It happens instantaneously. It is impossible for any process to have as its sole result the transfer of heat from a cooler object to warmer object. So this is the one more statement made by Clausius. Means a cooler object in no way is able to supply energy to a warmer object. Okay, and here we see one term being introduced, that is entropy. Delta S is equal to delta Q by T. T is temperature, delta Q is energy exchange. So because so many definitions are there to explain us the way how entropy works in the system, but to simplify the thing, entropy means a higher entropy indicates more disorderedness in the system. More the disorderedness, lower will be the internal energy. As you reduce internal energy, the system will go towards a higher stability. So these are the things, please remember this one, they help you in understanding things simply. So here a simple example is, if you take any class without a faculty, okay, so before the faculty coming into your class, so how will you use it? So will you see it in a regular attentive manner? No, because you will be relaxed, and then you keep orient yourself in various ways, obviously. Okay, some of you will be talking, some of you will be reading, some of you may watch move sideways, etc. You are talking to your friends, many things can happen. So that then the moment your faculty comes, and then your teacher teaching you some kind of subject, and then you will all orient towards the faculty and you are learning some kind of a subject, etc. Then the moment faculty again leaves the classroom, immediately you go into relaxed mode. Okay, so why that is considered as low energy? Okay, so orderliness is actually thermodynamically high energy situation. So that's the reason why system will tend to move towards disorderliness to reduce internal energy. Okay, so here when entropy of final products is much more than entropy of the initial products, that kind of a process is considered as irreversible process, and it happens almost instantaneously. Okay, immediately it will happen when the entropy of final products is equal to entropy of the initial starting material, then that kind of a process is a reversible process. Okay, so there is a possibility of attaining equilibrium. But when the entropy of initial products is much higher than entropy of the final products, that kind of a reaction is not possible normally. So that's the reason why from outside you need to supply energy for the reaction to happen. Okay, so this is the way how we can understand the concept of entropy, and this helps us understand again the reason why the reactions are happening in a particular direction. Okay, then let's see the third law of thermodynamics. It states that at absolute zero, entropy of the system will become zero. Entropy of the system will become zero. It's an impossible situation. So our system cannot lose entropy and move towards zero. Okay, so a little bit of it will shall always remain. And another very important component over here is, if you allow system to stay like that, okay, its entropy will continuously increase. In laws of thermodynamics, we have interestingly one more law, that is 0th law of thermodynamics is there. So this says when two systems are in thermal equilibrium with a third system, okay, two systems independently, so they are in equilibrium with, every one of them is in equilibrium with a third system, then we can consider that these first systems are also in thermal equilibrium with each other. Okay, so let's see this one. Let's say we have three systems are there, A, B, C. A and C are in equilibrium, B and C are in equilibrium independently. Then we have to consider that A and B are also in equilibrium with each other. Okay, so this is what we call it as 0th law of thermodynamics. So this has to be understood in a broader sense. So because in our body, though it appears as a single piece from outside, inside your body so many tissues are there, so many compartments are there, all of them are connected to each other. So here the way how energy flows in our body between compartment to compartment, and when it will be initiated, when it will be stopped, when it reaches equilibrium, all these things can be understood by understanding the 0th law of thermodynamics. So friends, this is the way how we have four laws of thermodynamics are there, which helps us understand the basic concepts of energy exchange in our system. So let's see what is internal energy. Every bulk system consists of a large number of molecules. So internal energy is simply the sum of kinetic energies and potential energies of these molecules. Internal energy of the system can change through only two modes of energy transfer, that is heat and work. Okay, so in a molecule, here we simply use the term kinetic energy and potential energy of molecules. What type of, how can a molecule have kinetic energy? Let's say this can be understood by just looking at the fluid substances, both liquids as well as this one, liquids as well as gases, where molecules virtually can move from place to place. When they are moving, kinetic energy half mv square can be applied to that. But what about the potential energy? So in case of potential energy, so a molecule is made up of atoms which are joined together by bonds. Okay, so when you have atoms connected to each other, so you can have electrostatic energy, magnetic energy, vibrational energy, so many other types of energies will be there. All of them combined with each other, they comprise of contribute towards internal energy of the molecule. Okay, so this is the way how. So internal free energy and spontaneous process, and how can we look at free energy or use the concept of free energy to decide to understand whether a reaction will happen or not, or what type of conditions will facilitate happening of a particular reaction is what we have to see. Both enthalpy means heat exchange, entropy means the disorderliness, that is what we have seen. Both are to be considered to understand why a reaction is happening the way it is happening. Okay, so here in the free energy, I hope you know the term Gibbs free energy. So Gibbs free energy is G is equal to H minus T into S, and if a system is moving from one energy state to another energy state, okay, so the difference in free energy between these two states, that is delta Z value, delta Z is equal to delta H minus T into delta S, means when a system is moving from one energy state to another energy state, the heat supplied and work done by the system, that is delta H value, and then the entropy difference of the system T into delta S. Delta S is the entropy difference. So both are to be considered to know whether a reaction will happen or not. So here I mentioned in a table the various conditions that we have for a reaction to happen. Let's see one by one. So in the first case here, we have delta H minus and delta S is positive. What does it mean? Delta H minus means final products have lower internal energy than starting materials, and then delta S value is on the positive side, means products have higher entropy than starting materials. So the reaction is both enthalpically favored or exothermic reaction and entropically favored. So hence here if you see delta H is minus, this is minus, as well as this is also minus. So delta Z altogether will become negative. So if we all knew that delta Z value, if it is on the negative side, it happens instantaneously. Okay, at all temperatures the reactions are going to happen spontaneously, or we call this kind of a condition as exergonic. Okay, the next one is when delta H is negative like the previous one, but delta plus is also negative, delta S is also negative, means the reaction is enthalpically favored. It's an exothermic reaction, but entropically opposed. So this kind of reaction will become spontaneous only at temperatures below T is equal to delta S. We need to maintain a temperature T is equal to delta H by delta S. Okay, below delta H by delta S, then only the reaction will happen spontaneously. The next one is, the third one is both are positive. Both are positive means delta H is positive, delta S is also positive. Because delta S is positive means it is entropically favored, but delta H, no, positive means higher products have higher internal energy than the starting materials. So in this kind of a condition, we need to supply energy. So that's the reason why the reactions are going to be spontaneous at temperatures above T is equal to delta H by delta S. The last one, both are not favored. Delta H is not favored as well as delta S is also not favored. So in this condition, the reactions remain non-spontaneous at all temperatures. The reactions are not going to happen at any point of time. Means the final products are of very high energy, and then they are not at all favored even in entropy terms also. So in this case, the reactions are not going to happen at any case. In the last one, the reactions are not at all going to happen. Okay, so friends, this is the way how free energy terms like enthalpy and entropy can be used to know the pathway of or otherwise direction of a particular biochemical reaction. So when it is going from glucose to glucose 6 phosphate, glucose 6 phosphate to further, so if somebody asks you why this kind of a directionality is maintained in biochemical reactions, so one reason is the free energy exchange. Okay, so if enthalpically and entropically if it is favored, the reaction will go towards that direction. So here is this one. So free energy change, and especially in case of glycolysis products, is what I mentioned over here. Here you can see the delta Z value. Oh, here we have two terms, delta Z naught, delta Z. Delta Z is the free energy content that I actually observed in cell. Delta G naught is free energy difference when calculated by keeping temperatures at a specific temperature, standard temperature and pressure conditions. Okay, that is delta G naught. So we focus here. So if you see hexokinase reaction, the means hexokinase means glucose to glucose 6 phosphate. That biochemical reaction is catalyzed by hexokinase enzyme. This is a part of glycolysis cycle. You will see that one in the coming lectures. This is the first step. The energy difference is minus 34. The delta Z value is actually minus 34 kilojoules per mole. Hence, the reaction happens instantaneously, and the energy gap is very high. So, most probably this reaction shall remain irreversible. It is not only spontaneous, but it remains irreversible. But if you see in the remaining reactions, one more reaction is over here where minus 19 kilojoules per mole is there. So this is phosphofructokinase, where this one, the fructose monophosphate will become fructose diphosphate. So here, so there are some reactions like phosphoglucoisomerase as well as this one, fructose biphosphate aldolase and glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate dehydrogenase. In these reactions, you can see the energy gap is relatively less. That means there is every possibility that the reaction can be reversible. And here, if you see in others, 1, 2, 3 and 4. In these 4, we have a positive sign. Okay, means the energy, the delta Z is actually not favoring a spontaneous reaction. But how these reactions are happening? So in case of biochemical reactions where you can see positive delta Z value, they are non-spontaneous, so they will happen inside our body by accepting energy or support from outside, either by coupling with another biochemical reaction or by taking the help of a coenzyme or a cofactor. They will try to let the reaction happen. Okay, so this is the way how biochemical reactions are completely understood, their direction as well as the ease with which a reaction happens, both can be understood by knowing the principles of thermodynamics. The next way is because as I told you, there can be so many forms of energy can be there. So one of the energy is the heat content is what we have seen. We can also have electrical energy. Okay, free energy redox potentials. Okay, redox potentials can also be used to understand flow of energy in our body. So the best example, because here the delta Z value in case of electrochemical reactions can be understood by using this formula. N is number of moles of electrons exchanged. Delta Z is equal to minus N Fe cell, where N is number of moles of electrons exchanged, F is Faraday constant, E is EMF of the cell. Okay, EMF can be replaced with redox potential in a biochemical reaction. As you move from here to here, the redox potential is increasing. As you increase the redox potential, the system or the chemical is going to be the ease with which a chemical can get reduced increases. Okay, means when you see this one NADH, NADH is converted to NAD plus and it is getting oxidized and releasing a proton. Okay, so what's happening here? It's an oxidation reaction, and as a part of this reaction, electrons are generated. So electrons have to move downwards. Okay, so when an electron is accepted by another system, what does it mean? So let's say here the electrons that are supplied from this one FMN to coenzyme Q. So what is happening to coenzyme Q? Is it getting oxidized or reduced by accepting electrons? It gets reduced. Okay, it gets reduced. Means it has reduction potential more than this one. Okay, so in this way, this potential difference creates the direction of flow for electrons. So thereby from here you can see electrons will travel throughout the system and reach ultimately the complex 4 where oxygen is going to be burned to produce water. Okay, so oxygen is electron sink. Okay, electron sink. Why it is happening? Because there is a gap in the free redox potential. So that is what is allowing electrons to flow from one end to the another end. So in this electron transport chain we can see that one. Okay, so if you see on the free energy scale also, as you move downwards, the free energy difference is actually going to zero, is continuously getting reduced. So this is what forces electrons to move from complex 1 to complex 3 to complex 4 and ultimately to this one. Okay, so oxygen is going to be burned. So in this way, sometimes, because in various forms energy dictates, but the basic principle is delta Z value must be on the negative side. Okay, so it can be electrical potential over here, or otherwise oxidation or reduction potential, or heat content. Any one of them can decide, can help us and explain why a reaction is happening in the way it is happening. Okay, so I hope you understood the concept. And another very important observation that we need to make is, in case of a biochemical reaction, because in case of a reaction, okay, two reactions are possible. Okay, so let's say in the same because we all knew that we are gaining energy from glucose. Okay, so glucose can give us energy in two ways. One is our system slowly harvests energy from glucose in various steps, like as I have shown you in the first stage. Okay, one reaction, second reaction, third reaction, fourth reaction, fifth reaction, sixth reaction, seventh reaction, like this. So that in every stage we gain, let's say 10 kilojoules or 20 kilojoules or something like that. Or else you can have a single jump where 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, let's say 80 kilojoules is released in a single step. So which one do we prefer, and why we have this type of slow capturing of energy, slow and sustained capturing of energy type of mechanism is existing in our body? Because when a large energy is released, only a little bit of it only can be captured by our system, because in our system, energy capturing mechanism is ATP. Okay, so where ATP biosynthesis needs 20 to 25 kilojoules of energy. 25 kilojoules of energy is needed. 20 kilojoules of energy is needed. So if you see the gap, energy gap, it will be 10 kilojoules. So 10 or 20 kilojoules will be used for ATP. This I am just giving you as an example, because while going through electron transport chain, we will see in detail exact figures about the need for need of energy for converting ADP to ATP will come. It will be around 20 to 15 kilojoules of energy is enough for synthesis of ATP from ADP. But when you hydrolyze ATP, you get around 30 kilojoules of energy. So that energy gap is what we gain and we make use of for conducting biochemical reactions. But here, if this and that's the reason why we cannot, because when the entire sugar is burned to convert to carbon dioxide and water, huge energy will be released. So this much energy cannot be handled by our system, so that lot of this will go out as heat. So that's the problem. That's the reason why our system adopted in this type of mechanism. Okay, so because if you see our body is constantly maintained temperature at 37 degrees centigrade or 98.2 degrees Fahrenheit. At that temperature, with constant volume almost, the biochemical reactions happen continuously. Okay, but that's again another reason why, because heat loss is minimized. So that's the reason why our engine is a lot more efficient than any other engines that are available in nature right now. Okay, so because if you see your bike, if you compare your bike with our system, a bike takes in petrol as the energy source. Upon burning, it generates kinetic energy, but along with kinetic energy, a little bit of kinetic energy, the little bit of energy that is generated by burning petrol is converted to kinetic energy, but it will also produce sound. It will also produce a lot of heat that you can feel in the exhaust pipe. Okay, so that this is the reason why. Engine efficiency will be reduced, because so much of energy is lost in heat and sound. Okay, so it may go up to 55 to 60% efficiency, whereas our body, our cells can capture energy to the extent more than 90%. Okay, so this is again another biochemical arrangement that we have inside our body, how to capture energy. So friends, let's summarize what we have learned today. Energy must be conserved. Okay, as far as the thermodynamics rule number 1 is concerned, energy must be conserved, but it can take different forms. In most of the biochemical reactions, enthalpy is equivalent to heat, because volume change is not possible, and biochemical system is closed system. That's the reason why almost absolutely enthalpy is equivalent to heat supply. Entropy is a measure of system's disorder, and it tends to increase with the time. So actually, because this is the concept which actually is behind life in a system. The free energy change for a process is determined by change in enthalpy and change in entropy. Okay, so both are important for us, because change in enthalpy and entropy means both must favor a process to happen. Delta H is equal to delta G is equal to delta H minus T into delta S. Delta H is change in enthalpy. Delta S is change in entropy. Okay, delta S must always be on the positive side, delta H must be on the negative side. Then the reaction will happen instantaneously, and in most of the cases it is irreversible. A spontaneous process occurs with a decrease in free energy. because delta Z value must always be on the negative side, then the reaction can happen spontaneously. Organisms are non-equilibrium open systems that constantly exchange matter and energy with their surroundings. So here open systems means the energy exchange happens all the time, okay, because you are breathing in and you are in contact with the environment, okay. So here that is what I mean by open systems. Here organisms are at always at non-equilibrium because we always have to do work. So when you are working, you are losing energy, so you always have to go into non-equilibrium state. One more component that I am introducing over here is enzymes, okay, because in your previous slide you have seen that the steps, various steps that are involved in capturing energy from food material or otherwise glucose. So in capturing, certain systems help us in convert molecule from one molecule to another molecules, and in that process we try to capture energy that is built in or invisible in a particular bond, okay. So the apparatus that helps us are biochemical molecules that help us are what we call them as enzymes. So they help us both conserve no, have increase the rate of thermodynamically favorable reactions, and they also help us perform all these reactions at body temperature. So friends, we are at the end of the lecture. Today we have learned the principles behind the energy principles behind biochemical reactions to understand why a biochemical reaction is happening the way it is happening. And in future, in the coming lectures, while let's say in carbohydrate biochemistry or lipid biochemistry, etc., in all these we will come back to, or we will make use of these principles to understand the biochemical reactions. So friends, I hope you understood the lecture. Please share this lecture with all your friends and colleagues, and we'll continue the discussion in my next lecture on high energy compound. Thank you for your time and see you soon. Thank you.